Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. This week, we're finally getting back to a little bit of work on the R35 GTR. For those of you that have been following the channel, you know that Mike, who's on this channel quite regularly, also known as PXT and Ninja, decided to pick up an S14 and we've been doing a lot of work on it. He picked up a car that was a little bit rough because he got an amazing deal on it. And our goal is to basically turn it into a tribute car from Letty's car from the first Fast and Furious movie, but also a car that we can take to the track that's not overpowered by like some other cars, that we can learn on, become better drivers, and then upgrade the car as we become better so that the car can keep up with us instead of the other way around. But there's been a lot of great content on that. We've done some work on it to pretty much bring it back to life. If you haven't seen those videos yet, just go ahead and check out my channel. There's a whole bunch of content already and more to come. But this week, we're gonna be getting back to the R35 because I know you guys do love the R35. Today, we're gonna be doing a very simple mod. In fact, if you are a beginning mechanic or you just picked up one of these and you're looking to kind of do a very simple mod to get the momentum going, this is a great thing to do. And what we're doing is we're gonna be doing what's called the DRL mod. Now, DRL is short for daytime running lights, and we all just call them DRLs for short. Basically, the way they work is, of course, when the car's off, they're not on. Once you start the car, you have to put the handbrake down, they kick on. And they're on when you drive around, hence daytime running lights. However, when you turn on the headlights, for some reason, they turn off and it looks a little bit weird. So with a very simple modification with very little money and parts, you can basically jump that circuit so that they're on when the headlights are on, so it looks so much better when you're driving around at night. So that's what we're gonna be doing today, and I'm gonna run you through the whole process. Before we get started, the first thing I wanna do is what I do in all of my videos when I show you how to work on any car, and that's run you through all of the tools and products you need to get this job done. That way, if there's a job you want to do to your car, you never find yourself in a situation where you've taken the car apart and all of a sudden you realize you need something, and then you're calling up all your buddies looking for a last minute ride to like Lowe's or Pep Boys or whatever you need to go to get whatever tool or product you need to finish the job. In this particular instance, this is actually going to be a very easy job, doesn't require a lot of equipment. The first thing you're going to need, of course, is just your standard toolkit. Now, for those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I use Craftsman. They don't pay me to say that, but I do like that whole no questions asked tool replacement program that I've used quite a bit. This should be pretty easy. Probably nothing more than a 10mm and a screwdriver is going to be needed to actually get to where we need to go. The only thing you might need that might not be in your kit is this. It's pretty much just a wire crimper tool. It's got a section where you can strip wires and crimp connectors, and you're going to need to do that because there's going to be some light electrical work involved in this job. Now, of course, you're going to need the actual kit itself. Now, this right here, you can get this on Amazon. It's just a simple, basic jumper harness. It's got a spot for 2 fuses, and then a wire that we're going to use to jump from the fuse location for the DRLs to another wire to make sure that it's running on constant power and it doesn't switch off with the headlights. Now, I am aware there is a guy in the GTR community that does sell these as a kit, and if you would like to support him, that's great. If not, like I said, very simple piece to get off of Amazon, and of course, there'll be links in the description down below. The other thing you're going to need is these. Now, I prefer to use these. These are T-connectors, and there's lots of different ways to splice a wire into another wire. Some people will pretty much use a butt connector. Some people will solder, which is probably one of the better ways to go. In this particular instance, I'm using a T-connector because if I ever want to reverse this process, it's much easier to do. This particular little device has a little spade that wraps around the main wire, and you pretty much crimp it down and it's locked on and kind of cuts into the wire a little bit. And then there's going to be a T-connector that we attach to this wire right here that'll plug into the back of it, and that's how we're going to jump the circuit. So like I said, there will be links to all of the tools and products used in this video in the description down below. That way you can take a look at it, and if there's anything you're missing in your kit, you can go ahead and click on the link. It'll take you where you need to go to get that product. But other than that, we're pretty much ready to go except for 2 things. One, if you do like automotive, particularly GTR and now S14 content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And 2, if you'd like to support the channel, I do have the JD Archer shop. If you go to jdarcher.bigcartel.com, you can see a limited selection of t-shirts I've designed that are for sale. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and pop the hood. I know, I'm doing something just a little unusual here in that I'm interrupting my own install video. The reason why is the footage you're currently watching is from a few weeks ago, and I did complete the install of the DRL mod on my R35. However, it had a few unintended side effects. Basically, installing the mod the way I did, you're gonna end up with a car that thinks that the running lights are permanently on. Basically what this means is there's a little light right here in the high beam housing that will always be on. Your side markers, always on. The tail lights will be on as if you have your lights on. and the AV unit will switch to dim mode because there again, the car thinks it's nighttime and you have your running lights on. Apparently, this is a well-known issue when doing the DRL mod, but for some reason, nobody's talking about it. There was a fix that was discovered, it was a few years ago, in that basically if you install a diode in the line, it gets rid of that whole issue. However, I want to give you a heads up. I was on GTR Life, I was reading through the threads, and there was 2 diodes that were brought up. However, apparently it's been determined that those diodes over time will burn out and therefore are incorrect. Now, as I did mention, there is a guy in the GTR community that is making just a readily plug and play kit. His company is called Auto Plugins. He actually reached out to me and we started talking, and I actually ordered up his kit. Now, this is actually a very nice kit. As you can see, it's got a nice shrink wrap on it, already comes with a proper spade connector, and right there is the diode. Now, he didn't want to tell me what the diode actually was, and to be honest, I don't fault him. If he's making these and selling these, for him to share his recipe with the entire community would cut into his sales. But there again, this is not an expensive piece, so I just recommend, the guy's actually really, really cool. Go to Auto Plugins. The link for his page will be in the description down below. If this is something you want to do to your car, you now have 2 options. 1, you can go with Auto Plugins, get this really nice kit. Or 2, you can go the way that I originally did. Go ahead and order the jumper harness off of Amazon and the fuses and experiment around with the diode yourself until you find one that works. Either way, all the information you need will be in the description down below. Aside from what I mentioned, I don't know the actual diode because I'm not going to call the guy out like that. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get working on this. I'm going to go ahead and swap out the jumper harness, and hopefully everything will work as it should. This is actually going to be a very easy install, and if you're kind of a beginning mechanic, this is a great first mod for you if you're a little nervous about wrenching on the R35 GTR. You're not going to need very much in the way of tools, as I said, pretty much just a 10mm and a flathead, and we're pretty much going to be ready to go. Now, where we're going to be working is right here. As you can see, Nissan labeled this battery, so it's real easy to spot. So you basically remove that cover and it exposes the battery. Now, unfortunately, there is an issue. Although this does expose the battery where you can remove the terminals, it doesn't give you enough space to actually get the battery out of the car. So we're gonna have to remove this plastic shroud right here. And it's very easy. There's just a couple of push-pull clips that we're gonna remove. This plastic piece will pretty much lift up and we can rotate it out of the way. And then we're gonna be able to get the battery out. And just like that, this lifts up and out of the way. Now, one thing we learned on the first time around that it took a little bit of experimenting is once you get the battery loose, this pretty much plastic piece right here gets in the way of getting the battery out. Now, I've seen some people just remove the whole thing, and really that's more work than you need to do. If you remove this clip right here and this clip right here, it pretty much loosens this up enough that the battery will push out of the way and clear. So we just need to remove a few more clips. So now, as you can see, this has got a little bit more flex, which means the battery will clear. Time to disconnect the battery. Now, the real annoying thing about this install is, as you saw, that there's a nut that holds the battery tied down on this side, and then there's also one that's here underneath the actual shroud. That's a real pain to get to. However, I found that if you pretty much just hand tighten it, when you tighten down the outside one, it'll be tight enough. So, in theory, once you loosen up this side should be loose enough that you can pretty much get this nut off by hand. But I've been wrong in the past before. I'm gonna go get an open box. All right, so also by loosening up the shroud, it gives you enough space to get a small 10mm socket in there to get that last nut loosened so we can get this tie down out of the way. All right, and there we go. So the interesting thing about it is, as you can see, it's got a small hook for the inside and then the standard tie down on the outside. So basically, with all that out of the way, this battery should come right on out. There we go. All right. Now, fortunately, this battery is nice and small. It's not terribly heavy. The only downside is this one doesn't have a handle, which makes it a little more pain in the ass to grip. But just like that, it's out of the car. Now that the battery's out of the way, we can now get to the fuse box where we need to work. I don't know why Nissan designed it this way, but that fuse box pretty much has the battery directly in the way. You can't get to it while the battery's in the car, which is why we removed the battery. Fortunately, getting into this fuse box is very easy to do, and you actually have two options depending on how much of a headache it is for you. Now, to get this lid off, there's actually two tabs on the underside of this particular box. You can fill one right there, and you can fill one right there. Now, you do have to pretty much squeeze both of them up at the same time. And in the instance like this, where it decides it just doesn't want to give, you have two clips right here at the top. Very easy to see. Squeeze them in, lift the box up, and the whole thing lifts clear of its mount. And what this will do is it'll give you a little bit more play room to try and get that lid off. And there we go. Everything is exposed. I'll go ahead and slide this back into position. Boom. Now, as you can see, here's the DRL mod I already installed, and this is where we're going to be working. The only difference being is that when you open this for the first time, there'll be a 10 amp fuse right there, and there will be no spade connector on this wire. But this does help you see which wire we will be working with. So you want to look for this white plug right here, and then there is a blue wire with silver bands that comes off of it, and this is the wire you will be splicing into. So what I'm going to do first is pull out this jumper box right here. Like I said, this is typically a 10 amp that goes right in there, and you can just pull it out. Let's go ahead and get this off. See, there's the original jumper harness that just didn't work for me. All right, so we got that loose, that comes off. Now see, this is why I like to use spade connectors, is as you can see, it leaves the wire pretty much intact, so you can actually reverse this if you decide to in the future. A little bit of electrical tape will cover that up. Now, use this blue one, but what I'm going to attempt to do is put it in the exact same spot that the red one was at. There we go. New clip on. Now that the clip's on, time to install the whole apparatus. As you can see, we can pretty much just clip in right here. And then you're gonna need to bend this down a little bit. And in. All right, that should do it. So it's all installed in the top 10 amp port, spliced into the blue wire with the silver band off of this plug. So now we're just gonna put the battery in loosely, fire up the car, and see if it's fixed my issues. So putting it back in is a lot more easy if there's two of you, because you got somebody who can lift up this cowl. But like I said, fortunately the battery is not big and it is not that heavy. There we go. All right, let's fire it up, see what happens. All right, so the DRLs are on. The side markers are now off. The rear side markers are off and the tail lights are off. Looks like we're doing pretty good. The AV unit. All right, let's kick on the headlights, see if it auto dims. Yes, it auto dims, but it's not always dim. So it looks like we're good. Now let's see if the DRLs stay on when I turn on the headlights. Now that we've tested everything and we know that it's working as it should, I'm gonna have to pull the battery back out real quick to put the cover on the fuse box. But other than that, we're ready to button this thing up and we're done. And there it is, the DRL mod done on the R35 GTR. The right way, without all of the errors, including the side markers turning on, the tail lights, and the AB unit basically being dim all the time. Now, having done this job twice, I pretty much have two observations. First, this is a very easy job. So if this is your first time turning the wrench or your 1 millionth time turning the wrench, this is definitely a job you can do yourself, and there's very low risk to damaging the car. Also, if you're a little nervous working on this car, because it is an expensive car for most people, it's also a great way to kind of get the ball rolling and comfortable with actually working on this car. The second thing that I've noticed is, well, might as well just go with the plug and play kit from Auto Plugins. Yes, you could pretty much get the piecemeal stuff off of Amazon, but then you're trying to figure out which diode is the right one. When it's just so much easier to get the one from Auto Plugins, hooks up, you're ready to go. Now, of course, if that's something you want to do, I will have a link for Auto Plugins in the description down below. So all you have to do is pretty much click on that link. It'll take you to the Auto Plugins page, and they'll get you set up with the proper kit. Now, I do also want to answer a question in this video that I get asked quite a bit, especially over the last year or so. And that is, hey, JD, when are you going to finally paint your fenders? And I finally have an answer for you all, and that is never. That's right, I am never painting these fenders. And the reason why is I'm going a different direction. Now, these fenders fit perfectly fine, and they're a good set of fenders. But my problem's always been the actual carbon fiber vents that glue into this hole. Once you paint the fenders, you pretty much glue them on top and they kind of sit off of the fender. EPI has also made a replica fender from the Nismo car, and in that one, the carbon fiber vents are basically flush molded into the fiberglass. And I like those a lot more. It's a lot cleaner of a look, in my opinion. So I've ordered up a set of those. They're currently being made. Once they're ready, I will install them in this car and I will get them paint matched. So that's coming up in the future. Overall though, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go and hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help the channel out a lot. As I did say at the beginning of the video, if you'd like to see more automotive, particularly GTR and now S14 content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me on all forms of social media, which include Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And there'll be links to all those in the description down below. Now, after watching this video, if this is a job you want to do to your car and you feel there's something I missed or you have any questions, go ahead and post in the comment section down below. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.